Okay, well, let's get started. Hey, thanks everyone for being here. Happy Friday. Yay, it's the last Friday of taxes. So I know that the Granite Peak team is very excited. Um, we are so excited to have Rob Best here today. He is so engaging. You guys are gonna have fun today, I promise. He is the CEO founder of Best Leadership. We can all Google that. It's a fun website as well. He luckily set his sights on vet med, so he does a lot of stuff. There's many layers to Rob. Luckily he set his sights on vet med, so we are fortunate enough to have him in the vet industry helping us out. He's got a couple of degrees. He's got a CVPM, so generally he knows what he's talking about. After spending a little bit of time with Rob, my takeaway from it is that he's probably always the most interesting man in the room. So I'm really excited that he's here today to add to our knowledge base. So, Rob, please. Oh, I was going to say, also, you're an expert in neuro leadership, which I think to the rest of us means emotional intelligence. So, I'm very happy that you're here. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Megan. It's a pleasure to be here. I've had a pleasure of getting to know you and your colleagues, a few of your colleagues anyway, at Granite Peak over the last year and a half or so. And I'm really appreciative for the choices you've made in supporting VetMed. We need more professionals from around various services to make the choices that Granite Peak has made and really focus on the needs for vet med professionals. So collectively, I think this entire room thanks you and your team for what you're doing. None of us, myself included, have the expertise of Granite Peaks, which is why we need more of you. So thank you for making yourselves and your expertise available for all of us. Um, and thanks for asking me to join and talk about a very common topic today. Um, in just a moment, I'll go to my share slides and I'll confirm to make sure everybody sees it. Uh, and I'll move through some content and ultimately what I'd like to get to is some possible dialogue. Um, I do a lot of public speaking, but I'm not a lecturer. I had terrible, awful experiences sitting through college and other education events where I just didn't connect whenever I sat and listened to lectures. That doesn't mean that I'm projecting the same onto you in terms of how you like to receive information or learn. It's just me. I don't learn well when it comes to sitting and being lectured to. So I made a commitment to never do that. So today I'm going to share some information, and as quickly as we possibly can, we'll get into some dialogue. And any possible questions you have, I'll do my best to answer. And even more so, any additional valuable information you can share. That's what we're really going to look for. This is a room full of a bunch of smart people who have a lot of life and professional experience, and you're going to have some thoughts that can add a lot of value to today's conversation as well. So let's not rely on one person's voice and information. Let's use an opportunity here to collect a field of commentary from all of you. So I'll move over to a screen share now. Also, I'll say ahead of time, I failed. I usually have a secondary screen over here so I can see the chat function. I might not have easy access to that, so Megan will help me catch any dialogue that I don't see immediately. So throughout the experience today, please don't hesitate. Fill questions and comments into the meeting chat, and Megan will interrupt me kindly and swiftly so we can address anything that happens to populate there. In fact, part of the very beginning of this, I'm going to ask you all to do something that will just be a quick check to make sure that the chat function is actually working, and to check that you're awake and ready to hang out with me for a few minutes. So here comes the share. All right. We always cross our fingers for technology and make sure it works in our favor. We tested this just a couple minutes before everyone came on, and we're glad we did because we weren't able to see the slides to start. Uh, but on my end, it looks like we're good. I'm looking to the side. I get good. I see some thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Today's topic is imposter syndrome. And to start, like I said a moment ago, I'd like to confirm that the meeting chat is even operating and that I have even just a hint of percentage of attention. I'm sure a bunch of you are probably sitting in your practices and there's lots of other things going on around. So for a brief moment, I want to check, just how much attention I've got. And it comes by way of something super simple. I'm just going to ask a few questions. And if any of these questions happen to be a yes for you, please give an emoji of some sort into the meeting chat. So a thumbs up, a hand heart, a clap, a wave of the hands, any quick emoji just to demonstrate that, okay, the meeting chat's working. And in addition, maybe there's some confirmation that we have some relatedness with today's group. So question one is do you ever perhaps secretly worry that maybe you're not as bright or as capable or as qualified as other people, quote unquote, think that you might be? And I'll go through these fairly quick. I've got, 6 or 7 of them. And if there are multiples, each time you hear a question like, yeah, that sometimes that's me, that could be me, continue to repopulate. Give us the thumbs up. Let us know the chat's working. Next question is, do you ever chalk up your accomplishments to luck or timing or the connections you have or maybe a computer error that worked in your favor? If you've ever experienced that, give us a thumbs up or an emoji, something in the meeting chat. Have you ever done something, accomplished something, and part of your mindset included, you know what, if I can do it, anybody can do it? If you've ever had that thought, give us a thumbs up, a hand heart, something in the meeting chat. How about flaws? Have you ever found yourself agonizing over a single flaw that may have occurred relating to your work or your responsibility in the hospital? Whether it's something relating to a leadership task, something medical, something with an interaction with a client or an interaction with a team member. You ever felt yourself agonizing over just a single flaw? Give us a thumbs up or some emoji. Do you ever feel crushed when not just receiving uh, feedback, but like actual constructive feedback? It's something that is truly factual and constructive and actionable. Have you ever felt crushed in seeing it as evidence that maybe you're inept as opposed to just simple feedback? If that's a thing for you, give a thumbs up or another emoji. When you do succeed, if you've had moments of success, things went really, really, really well. Have you ever in those moments felt like you fooled them again? You did just good enough to help them believe that you really know what you're doing. And even to build on it, let's say you got complimented for something really good that you did. If you're the person who ever deflects those compliments, either verbally or even non-verbally, you happen to deflect those compliments, give us a thumbs up or a hand emoji. Let us know that you can relate to that. Just a couple more. Do you ever worry that it's just a matter of time before you're found out? Do you ever worry that it's just a matter of time before you're found out? I'll tell you, that's one of mine for sure. In a few moments, I'll give you a little bit more about my background. But my background comes with some high expectations. Like many of you can relate, you're leaders in in hospitals. That alone comes with high expectations. And sometimes I wonder, my inner voice creeps in and I start to wonder if I'm really capable of meeting these expectations. Um, and as a result, that's one of those inner dialogue moments, oh my gosh, I fooled him again. Just a matter of time before I'm found out. If you can relate to that, just moments. I'm not saying you live your life this way but just if you have moments where this creeps into your mind, give us a thumbs up in the emoji, or any other emoji in the chat. Last question. Do you ever hesitate to pursue opportunities or to share ideas due to a fear of inadequacy? Do you ever find yourself momentarily holding back and not pursuing something or not sharing an idea due to fear of possible inadequacy? Okay, so I'm going to look to the left here because I have a secondary screen where I can see some of our supporters, including Megan. And did we have any activity in the meeting chat, Megan? If just a head nod or an actual thumbs up in front of your screen, I can see you on camera. So Megan, did we have any activity at all? Even just a couple of people putting emojis in the meeting chat.
I think we got some really clever ones. Yes.
All right. Okay. I like clever ones. Give me, since I don't have visual, what kind of clever emojis are we seeing?
I think the green alien, right? Like maybe you feel out of place. The guy with the fake nose and mustache. I think that's a good one.
Oh,
Lots of hands being raised. Thumbs up, crazy eyes. I think we kind of run the gamut on agreeing with many of the things you brought up.
awesome. Thank you, Megan. And for our audience as a whole, from time to time, I'll be turning to Megan again. If you see me on your screen as a little box, I get the little boxes off to my left here. So I'll turn to Megan once in a while, and just as we did there, this is intended to be a conversation for all of us, not a lecture. So Megan, just as you provided some additional background and information, even though it was something small there, we'll do the same with anything that populates in that meeting chat. So jump in anytime. If I happen to miss you, please interrupt, speak over, and we'll dig into this dialogue that's specific to any questions or comments that happens to pop in. Um, okay, so what's the deal? Am I some random guy that happens to have a relationship with Granite, and this is a topic I threw some AI commentary behind, or is there some real credibility behind what we're going to discuss today in terms of me helping to guide the conversation? Well, let me give some context first with regards to an ability to speak to your experiences. For the better part of 20 years, my background has been in consulting and leadership development. Uh, but about 16 years ago, I literally stumbled into an opportunity to do some work in vet med. Um, there's a longer backstory, and if we see each other at conferences or crossing in the halls of vet med events, and you have an interest, we can have some fun with what the backstory is. However, the end result, 16 years later, I love the people in vet med. After a 1-year contract, I never left. And I dedicated my work to supporting any and everyone I possibly can who's in positions of leadership in veterinary medicine. And in the first few years, I spent a considerable amount of time putting on my scrubs and working kennel, working tech, and working reception. If I'm going to support people in hospitals, I need to know what it really feels like to walk in their shoes. So I went and did it for a long time, and with a high level of consistency. And today, if you need a relief shift filled, anything that doesn't require a DVM or an RVT or an LVT, then if I'm local, call me. I can't remember the last time someone took me up on it, and I don't blame them. It's been a long, long time since I've had my hands on in practice. So there'd be a lot of rust and I need a lot of guidance. But boy, do I love getting inside the practices and interacting with the people and the patients. Um, So you'll recognize a volume of confidence that I'll speak with, and it's purposeful because many of the shoes that can be worn in the practice, I've walked in them for a time to have an understanding, and that understanding really elevates an ability to share some empathy. So today's conversation, as we connect, when and wherever possible, let's speak specifically to what's being experienced in the practices, and let's elevate that conversation around what we can do day to day in practice as it relates to our topic. Um, but what does this mean when we get into the deeper dives? And Megan gave a little piece of background here. Yeah, I'm licensed in these human behavior areas, one of them being neuro leadership. It's the neuroscience of human behavior applied to leadership. I also, a long time ago, fell into some government intelligence stuff, and I'm licensed in areas like body language, statement analysis, deception detection, and language theory. I'm the person who will train federal agents how to profile and interrogate. And I'll even go on TV from time to time and profile criminals or the occasional celebrity that might get in trouble or find themselves in the news. In business, these human behavior elements are directly applicable to understanding how a leader influences a team, how a leader influences the success or otherwise of a business or a professional organization of any sort. So when we build out the dialogue, we can be detailed with regards to what your day-to-day experiences are, not just in relevance to what's being experienced in the practice, but from our behavioral perspective. What are our behaviors that affect this topic of imposter syndrome? And because we're leaders in a practice, how does that maybe influence the people around us as well? So those will be some conversation opportunities that we'll look for today. And in doing so, there'll be a couple of specific questions I'll ask. So we'll go through this content fairly quickly. I'm guessing within 15 or 20 minutes we can complete the content, but then we want to dialogue around it. And I'm going to want to know any thoughts or any examples that you might have specifically connected to the tips we'll give. And there's 8. We're going to give you 8 tips today. Here's 8 things that you can do, and they're all actionable, and you can do them today. You can finish this call and you can start doing them today. However, some, maybe many, or even all of you have had some experience with some of these tips, and we want to hear from you. Let's talk about that. What are some of these tips that have really worked for you? What are some that you're aware of, but you're not really sure how to implement? Or there's maybe a concern that if you lean into it, you don't know what the possible outcome could be beyond addressing imposter syndrome. So let's dig into that dialogue. And ultimately, the final question is going to be, what other tips or advice do you have? What has worked for you as it relates to today's topic? And let's put that out for the rest of the group to absorb as well. So that's who I am. It's a little bit about the background, and these are my kids. This is Bentley on the left. He's a 4.5-year-old Vizsla, and that's Barca, like Barcelona. Barca is on the right. She's my 2.5-year-old Weimaraner. If you've got me on the small screen, I don't know if you can tell, but behind me here are my crates, their crates, and she's laying down there keeping an eye on all of us. They're an interesting pair. I love Wimes and Vizslas. I'm an avid outdoors person, a runner, trail runner, marathoner, and so they get a lot of miles in with me. And they also happen to act like those 2 little voices that sit on your shoulders. Bentley, the Vizsla, he's like that little inner voice that's just the super sweet, Velcro pup who wants me to make sure I know everything is chill all the time, right? Barca, she's a Weim. I'm sure most, if not all of you, understand Weimaraners. She's the polar opposite. She isn't that Velcro sweet, everything's okay. She's the gray ghost who's always in my shadows and making sure that she's got a plug on everything that's happening around us at all times. And she wants to tell me about it, right? So Bentley's going to be this inner voice who is helping me just go with the flow, life is good. Bars is the one that's the inner voice feeding those levels of anxiety and uncertainty at all times. As sweet as she might look laying there behind me, don't let her fool you. She is judging us all. So those are my two little inner voices. And here's another little inner voice. So our inner voices are a real thing. Um, it's comical to talk about my pups and what it might be like. It's fun to see, a celebrity like Michael Jordan have a moment in a mirror. The reality is one of the primary reasons it's easy for most of us to enjoy a comical piece or even a truly connected conversation around the self-talk is because we all experience it. Similarly to when I was asking the initial questions to identify whether or not we've got some relatedness in the group, which we clearly do, we can all have relatedness with this inner dialogue. See, on average, and this is every human, every single person here, on average, we will self-talk, our brains will self-talk between 300 to 1,000 words every minute of every day. Now just sit on that for a brief moment. 300 to 1,000 words are self-talked by our brain every minute of every day. And here's the kicker. At all times, most of those words are negative. Now, this isn't a pro or a con. This is just, it is what it is. It's called being human. It's the way our brains are wired. A lot of words are self-talked, and most of those words are negative. And this negative self-talk feeds this topic today of imposter syndrome. It's one of those baseline foundational components to why we might experience imposter syndrome. An important detail to add to that foundational piece is an understanding that while we might experience it, it's important to note that because we experience it, it's a really good, really positive thing. It may not feel really good. It may not feel really positive. When negative self-talk enters our brain and moments we may even spiral in a negative direction with it, there is a positive connection. And the positive connection is the feeling or the experience of imposter syndrome is confirmation that you care. It's a sign that you actually give a shit. I didn't, by the way, ask if I'm allowed to cuss. So for Granite Peak, I apologize, but ask for forgiveness, not permission. You actually give it, you care. Imposter syndrome is good. It's a sign. It is evidence that you care. Now, we don't want it to consume us. We don't want it to drive negative behaviors, negative decision making, or negative outcomes. However, just as a foundational piece to the puzzle, it is positive that you feel it or experience it because it is evidence that you care. And in a profession like vet med, evidence that we care is so very necessary because of the clients we care for, and of course, our top priorities, the patients that we care for. So if we use this as our baseline, right? Okay, I'm a leader in vet med and I care. That's great, Rob, but it doesn't tell us what we're going to do about this imposter syndrome because it still doesn't feel good and it can lead to some negative outcomes if we don't learn how to manage it. So now what? What are we going to do with it? Well, here's that quick moment. I want to jam through 8 very quick tips and then navigate a little dialogue around it if possible. So the first is empathy and compassion. And this is empathy and compassion for yourself. This is where I'm asking you to give yourself grace, because if you're incapable of giving yourself grace, you'll be less capable of giving your team grace. You'll be less capable of expressing and providing intentional empathy for the people you support in your practice. The reality here is, especially for the people around us, People don't need us to be perfect. What they need is for us to be authentic. And acknowledging that you might be feeling some imposter syndrome, whether it's in the mirror with yourself or with people around you, is an act of authenticity. And again, whether you share it with someone else or not, that authentic behavior is recognized by people around you. So you're going to do something really good for yourself by acknowledging it and giving yourself grace. But that act of authentic behavior, whether shared with someone else or not, is observed and recognized by the people around you for more positive influence. So giving yourself grace does good for you and it does good for people around you. So that's our first step. Begin with giving yourself some intentional grace, knowing we all make mistakes, knowing that we all experience self-doubt. So treat yourself with some kindness and perhaps even that same kindness that you might otherwise extend to others and sometimes not give to yourself. Second of the two tips is let's begin reframing our stinking thinking, right? Again, I said 300 to 1,000 words every minute of every day, and most of those words are negative. This is our stinking thinking. Let's acknowledge it and start to become a narrator of these words as opposed to an observer and a receiver of these words that our brain happens to self-talk. So let's reframe, right? And sometimes the reframing is going to be specific to characterization. If you're feeling imposter syndrome, you might find yourself in your mind saying things like, I am frustrated. I am no good at this. I am fill in the blank. That one piece is a big opportunity for reframing because when you use the words I am, you are assigning yourself a character. I am frustrated. No, you're not frustrated. You're John. And John, you feel frustrated. And that's the reframe moment, right? I'm acknowledging them feeling something, and that emotion is frustration. I feel frustration. I feel like I am inadequate. I feel like I am incapable. You're identifying it as a feeling, as something that has come to visit you, as opposed to identifying it as a character trait or something that is who you are. So check your stinking thinking. Identify what that self-talk is, what the dialogue, shift it to something positive and reframe the wording that might be inside your mind or even as you verbalize to people around you. So let's check our stinking thinking. That's number two. Number three, we got to focus on facts, not feelings. Our brains are hardwired to be emotional. As much as you might believe that you are logical and rational thinking and behaving people, you're not. Science proves you're not. On average, 80% of all decisions we make in life are driven by emotions. We use logic and rational thought to support and back up the emotional decision making that occurs. We are not logical, we are not rational beings. Again, not a positive or negative thing. This is simply acknowledging that we are human. And if we acknowledge that we're human, we can be more intentional with the behaviors that might follow. So rather than falling victim to emotions, when our amygdala is triggered, that little piece in the middle of our brain that feeds all the emotion, it literally physically enlarges and it floods our prefrontal cortex with all this stuff. And these feelings cloud the facts. So go back to the facts for a moment, right? Combat those emotions with your accomplishments. Just for a brief moment, think about the CE courses that you've tracked, whether it's over the years or just in the past year itself. Think about successful patient outcomes. Track those positive client testimonials. Anytime these feelings of potential inadequacy creep in, go back to the facts. Acknowledge the feelings. They're real. Don't ignore them. In fact, acknowledging them reduces them. Even just calling out an emotion, such as I feel sad. I feel unhappy. I feel inadequate. I feel angry. I feel when you identify that and you call it out, you acknowledge it, it actually reverses what's happening neurologically. You acknowledging your own emotional state helps to deactivate that amygdala. It starts to shrink back down and you can become more logical and more rational with your thoughts and your behaviors just by acknowledging it. So after you check your stinking thinking, let's focus on our facts. Let's acknowledge that those emotions are real and they're there and focus on the facts. Next up is mentorship. This isn't a new topic. We're all familiar with mentorship, and whether it's a system you have in your hospital for new hires, especially new DVM associates, or if you do something that's more formalized, where you go out to, let's say, a Dr. Danny Roblin with Ready Vet Go, and you actually build in some outside resources for mentorship. But your ability to get beyond yourself and to bring in an experienced colleague into your circle as a mentor, excuse me, as a mentor is one of the best things that you can do. And there's another twist to this as well. So on one side, we get it. We can seek mentorship. And by the way, being the leader in the practice doesn't mean you can't be mentored by someone else in the practice. Find an area where you might feel that imposter syndrome with a specific area of expertise and find someone in the hospital who has that expertise, whether it's a particular surgery or it's a type of difficult conversation or it's a specific client interaction where there's someone else in the practice who's really, really good at it and you're not. Partner up with them and ask them to mentor you and help guide you through those moments so you can get better. And it's going to do two things for you. Number one, yes, it's going to help reduce some of the imposter syndrome. And two, as a leader in the practice, that showing of vulnerability and courage will help encourage your team to do the same in return. You modeling those vulnerable behaviors will help your team to be encouraged to display vulnerable behaviors so you can be a better support system for them. That's our Brene Brown moment of the day for the Brene Brown fans. Now the other side, I thought there was a second piece to this. Not only is seeking mentorship helpful, but so is providing mentorship. When we take something that we've learned or that we understand and we teach it to someone else and we help guide others, this is a form of what's called service learning, and it creates this emotional mind shift from anything that might be considered negative, like imposter syndrome, and it boosts you into this mindset of hero. And it's going to help reinforce things that you've learned. So one, this gives you a boost of your own mindset where, yes, I am the person that can help other people. And it helps to reinforce whatever this particular area of expertise happens to be. Every time you teach or guide someone else in the same area, it boosts your skill level, your mental capacity, your resilience, anything and everything that revolves around that topic. So it's not only about you seeking mentorship so you can receive it, you stepping out and providing mentorship helps to reduce these elements of imposter syndrome as well. Next is a support system. This is similar to mentorship, but mentorship is very specific. This is a contract that you would have with someone. A support system is simply being intentional with the people who are around you. Make sure that the people who are around you are people that yes, are going to support you, but in ways that are truly intended to be positive. And this is more than, hey, let's address imposter syndrome. It goes far beyond that. Back to the brain and our hardwiring, over 70% of what we consider to be happiness or experiences that derive happiness in life are directly connected to the people around us. It's connected to the relationships we have with people. So if imposter syndrome is a thing that we want to address, we want to be intentional, then let's be intentional with the people we're surrounding ourselves with, both in work and at life, right? Like, where am I giving the extra few minutes to with regards to my environment and the people in my environment? Are these people who are supportive and building me up, or are these people who, whether direct or indirect, happen to feed the negativity that I might feel from some of that self-talk? So it's time for intentional decision making with the people that are around us. This one's a little easier for our profession and others, which is continuous learning. We work in a science field, which means there are always advances in our profession. So if we're going to stay on top of being active experts in vet med in whatever areas we happen to have expertise, continuous learning is a necessity. If we're licensed, we have to do it just to keep our license. Megan and I are CVPMs. We've got to do it just to keep our CVPM. For the doctors and the RVTs and LVTs, it's so much more crucial for you with continuous learning. But now you can simply add an element of intentionality for your reason for the learning. Some of us simply enjoy it. Some of us need it for our license, but now we can also consider this another opportunity for intention to reduce the potential for imposter syndrome. So the idea is committing to this lifelong learning and taking action with conferences or online courses like you are today, or staying up to date with whatever the latest research is as you deep dive on a Google search or an AI search. So continuous learning, another effective way to combat imposter syndrome. Okay, we're nearing the end. We're almost there, which is a reason to celebrate. But celebrating is also the next piece. And this is number 7. There's one more after this, number 8. This is number 7. Feeling threatened is sometimes, by colleagues around us who are experts, is sometimes a thing that can generate this imposter syndrome. And it's like fuel. It's like fuel for imposter syndrome. Rather than allowing that fuel to become a downward spiral with more negativity, we can make a conscious decision. And this is, some of these are going to overlap. This connects to reframing as well. We can reframe and choose to celebrate that person's success, as opposed to allowing their success to maybe generate some of these feelings relating to imposter syndrome. The idea behind celebrating success is, a rising tide is going to lift all boats, right? So be that person that helps rise the tide and celebrate the close colleagues that you have around you, the ones that maybe are from afar. Be intentional and be consistent with celebrating their wins. And then, of course, you turn that around with a mirror and you celebrate your own wins, right? There's more overlap here. Go back to those facts where you're focusing on facts, not feelings. Go back to those facts and celebrate those as wins. The client testimonies, the positive patient outcomes, the additional letters that you earned after your name. Celebrate yourself just as well and as much and as often as you might celebrate others, both the small wins and the big wins. Okay, number 8, the last of our 8. It's time to embrace a growth mindset. It's not a new term. I'm sure you've heard it before. For those that like to geek out on growth mindsets, just Google Carol Dweck, one of the world's leading experts in the field. Growth mindsets are a real thing. Our brains and all of that self-talk generates a mindset. And sometimes that mindset is rigid in what it believes, and sometimes we can break away from the rigidity and choose growth. How we do this in the idea of reducing imposter syndrome, it begins by simply leaning into viewing challenges as opportunities. Again, a little more overlap. We're reframing something. The challenge is viewed intentionally as an opportunity. We lean into challenges because challenges become opportunities to learn, to grow, to become better, um, to push ourselves, to even have opportunities for falling forward, if you would, right? Like, I'm not really sure. I'm probably going to stumble along the way, and that's okay. As I stumble, I'll continue to pick myself up and learn. So growth mindsets, learning from mistakes, it's a crucial and very necessary thing for personal and professional growth. But when we lean into it with intentionality, it's another element that helps to significantly reduce what we might be feeling when it comes to imposter syndrome. So those are our quick 8. Now there's all sorts of evidence and science and literature behind overcoming imposter syndrome. This isn't the 8. It isn't as if you don't have any other options beyond these 8. And I'm not saying that these are the best 8. That becomes a conversation where two of my favorite answers to most all questions in life today is either I don't know and it depends, right? So are these the best 8 for you? I don't know, and it depends. It's subjective. It's very specific to you and your life experiences. So something here might resonate with you really, really well, and you can go take action on it an hour from now. Some of this, you may think, that's already a part of my DNA. I already do that, and I'm still experiencing these things. I need something else. Okay, well, then you pick something else from this list. Or if you're the person who looks at this list and you're like, yeah, I'm pretty consistent overall with these things, and I need a little something more because these things alone just don't do it for me. If that's you, well, then I want to make sure you've got some additional resources. If you know that there's some additional change needed, some positive change to help reduce or create separation between you and these moments of feeling imposter syndrome, then here are a few more resources. Just grab a quick screenshot or a picture. And of course, you'll have the slides in PDF. So you'll have a copy of this. But Carol Dweck, Valerie Young, and Lisa Obrey Austin are 3 experts in the field who have books, TED Talks, podcasts, articles. There's so much information on all 3 of these professionals, and they have additional resources to help you directly address wherever your concerns happen to be with imposter syndrome and how the imposter syndrome might affect your professional and life experiences. So you've got a list of 8. You can take action on them. You've got 3 additional resources for those that want to do a deeper dive. And if you choose to do so, this thing that we call imposter syndrome, which is very real and consistent. And again, it's also a positive, right? This is a evidence-based sign that we care, which, by the way, for those people who never experience imposter syndrome, what does that mean? Does that mean they've got all this confidence and all? No, no, no. Usually what it means is they're a narcissist, or at the very least, they have narcissistic tendencies. And in today's context, that's not a good thing. Maybe there's a different context but for today's context, that's not a good thing. What is a good thing for today's context is we have evidence that we care. We have evidence that we give a shit. And it's so very important because of the work that we do. And if we can lean into leveraging the positive evidence of feeling imposter syndrome and taking some action with choices and behaviors to reduce the after effects, well, we can separate from the downward spirals and break away and perhaps become positive models for other leaders around us, whether in our practice or other practices that happen to be in our profession. So the question that with the few minutes we have remaining, and by the way, for anyone who wants to extend beyond our closing time, which I believe is 12 minutes away, So I will stay on. I think my next meeting is an hour for now. So I've got time to hang out with you guys if you have more questions beyond our time. But I'm now looking for questions and something I like to call eureka moments. Specifically as it relates, obviously, to our topic of imposter syndrome, but with the 8 different actions we can take. And I'll go back to the slide. I went the wrong way on my I went down instead of up. There we go. I'm going to go back to the slide so you can see what the 8 are and address them. So the question is this: any specific questions you have about taking action on these 8? An additional question is any experiences that you have had that can be helpful for the group, positive, negative, or otherwise, as it might relate to these tips. And then the third piece is, what additional tips do you have? Something that's not on this list. What has worked for you? What has been a particular behavior or an action, or maybe even a uh, uh, a resource, a specific tool or resource that you've perhaps stumbled upon and worked for you. So as we move into that part of the dialogue, I'll just come over here and give the, hey, thank you, Granite Peak. Thank you, everybody, for joining and spending some time together. I'm going to exit out of the slideshow. So anyone who wants to come off camera and, we'll get into the chat and maybe even off mute if possible and dialogue. Let's see what other value we can extract from this information that can be actionable for you in practice. And again, the slides will be sent to you in PDFs. You'll have all this information available. I'm going to exit out of the PowerPoint. And as my screen comes back to me, I can stop the share. And we're back. So let's see, we've got a few official minutes. And again, I'm available beyond that for anyone who wants to talk or dialogue some more. But I'll verbalize just so you can hear it. Some people need to hear it as well. Anything that you have experienced, positive, negative, or otherwise, with reframing your stinking thinking, seeking mentorship, practicing your self-compassion, engaging your growth mindsets, or how you choose to celebrate others around you, celebrate yourself, embracing continuous learning, building support systems around you. Please, if willing, give us some of your thoughts, some of your feedback. You can do this in the meeting chat, and I believe we are able to unmute if you would like to just speak as well. So our first chat comes, I see, when it comes to reframing, e.g., eliminate the stinking thinking, and focusing on facts, not feelings, I found the books by Trevor Moward, or Moawed, sorry. It Takes What It Takes and Getting to Neutral to be excellent resources. So thank you, Jason. Dr. Jason, I'm not, Jason, I don't want to mispronounce it.
It's okay,
Just say
Rob. No
Dr. Jason.
worries. It's Regalado, but Dr. Jason's fine.
Awesome.
No, a lot of it just had to do with eliminate in and again, sorry for swearing, but stop saying stupid shit. Okay. So all of those negative thoughts that come into our head and whatnot, just don't verbalize them. It's not so much being toxically positive. It's just not saying the negative things and not being that negative burden on yourself. Because when you hear it, it's almost as if you speak it into existence, and then others hear it. So just removing that negativity, not actually getting positive, just getting yourself to neutral can have some pretty significant effects. So,
Jason, I love that you also identified the potential for toxicity on the positive end as well. And as I mentioned this, Kristen, thank you so much for the kudos to Megan and being a valuable mentor and giving you confidence. So all the golf claps to Megan. Does not surprise me at all. I've got a chance to meet and spend some time with Megan in person, well, about a month and a half, 2 months ago. And yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I'm sure Megan has done that for many of you. And if you haven't had the chance, reach out, proactively reach out, spend some time with Megan. She is a resource that is available to you. Activate that resource. So there's Dr. Jason, back to there's multiple, this started in the 70s, and there have been multiple times that the research has been replicated, even as late as 2010, 11, and 12. There's this thing called the magic ratio. It's been coined as the magic ratio, and it's this ratio of negative to positive experiences that people have as micro moments of human interaction. And there's a magic ratio for professional business. There's a magic ratio for romantic relationships. And the research began with romantic relationships, and then it expanded into professional business. And I'll skip through the stuff and just give you the results. In romantic relationships, the magic ratio is 5 to 1. For individual micro moments of interaction with a romantic partner, for every one negative experience you have, you need a minimum of 5 positive experiences to overcome it. If that exists in your relationship, there is a greater than 98% chance that relationship will last. Less than that, there's a 98% chance that it will fail within 10 years. In business, we're lucky, it's a little easier. In business, the ratio is 3 to 1. For every one negative experience someone in our practice might have, as leaders, we are tasked with the responsibility to make sure they have at least 3 positive micro moments of interaction. And when that occurs, we see many measurable outcomes: increases in productivity, efficiency, employee retention, client retention, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, the piece that stimulated this thought was when you said positive toxicity. The magic ratio has a tipping point, which is 13 to 1. If those micro moments of positive interaction, and I literally micro moments, it's like the high five when you pass in the hall, right? If you are experiencing 13 positive micro moments or more to each one negative micro moment, now it feels disingenuous. It has lost its authenticity, is less realistic, and people will not buy it. They won't buy your shit, right? So we want to be intentional and cautious with not losing authenticity and overdoing something to the positive where it literally is disingenuous. People, again, they don't have to be experts in behavior. They will feel it. They will feel it and they will react to it. So great call out, Dr. Jason. Really appreciate you for bringing that into the conversation.
Anybody else? We just have a couple more minutes. I love this. Is fascinating, right? And there's so many takeaways for all of us in our day to day. Anybody else brave before we go?
It's Friday. We're at practice. If you're on the East Coast, it's already the afternoon. If you're on the West Coast, hopefully you've got nice weather. I got my window to the left here. Beyond today, again, you all have access to Megan and Granite Peak. You'll have my slides, which also has my contact information. Any questions, any concerns, any of those aha eurekas, like, oh my gosh, Rob, I want to make sure you're aware of this. It's really cool and effective, and maybe you can make it available for other people. Reach out to me, call me, email me. The phone number that you have on there is my cell phone. You can text me. I really enjoy connecting and supporting people in our profession. So please don't hesitate. Even if we've never talked or met, well, maybe it's just a really good reason to create an opportunity to add to our network and get to know each other.
I have to say, I'm also going to judge you for having a Wiesel and a Weimar. I don't know if it's only me or the rest of the room feels it too. But that's like but that's like a recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah. Well, welcome to my life.
Okay, I feel like I got that. I gained a lot of insight when you shared that. So thank
It
you
is
for
that.
that. I appreciate everybody hanging out. We had a great team today. We'll have another one of these next month. I think we're talking to Bank of America about money. Like who knows what's going on with that. So that'll be a good one to tune into. We'll send that out for you. If you need CE for today, don't forget to email us at events@Granite Peak CPA and we'll get you the CE certificates. We'll send out Rob's slide deck. It'll also be posted on our YouTube channel. We have a podcast you guys should be listening to. We have a Facebook page. We are like everywhere and you should be part of it because I'm there and you should be too. So Rob, thank you so much. Fun as always. Y'all have a great weekend. Thank you.